Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't even really know where to start because I've heard so many comments in here that really deserve to be questioned, refuted, and addressed. So one thing that really stuck out to me, and I really apologize, your last name is very hard to pronounce. How do you pronounce your last name?
Narasta.
Narasta.
Yeah.
Okay, definitely not how it is spelled.
It's very poorly spelled. I apologize for that. It's an Ellis Island problem.
Narasta.
Narasta.
Narasta. Okay, so earlier you had said that there is no financial impact to the communities that are absorbing these illegal immigrants.
No, so I talked about nationwide, federal, state, and local, the net fiscal impact is positive, but I did highlight in some places like New York City that have very bad local policies like right to shelter, that there is a negative fiscal impact, and you see it in states that rely on like a state income tax. They have a negative fiscal impact on average, but states that don't have a state income tax, like Texas, like Florida, for instance, states, I approve of that policy tremendously, by the way, not having a state income tax.
Taxation is theft, so, you know.
And so those states tend to do a little bit better because the forms of taxes that they have, like
Right.
property and are spread.
But I think we can all agree that there is a cost to the illegal invasion that we are experiencing. For example, in the last year, $60 billion, which as a point of reference, $60 billion is what we are arguing over right now as top-line numbers for funding the federal government, of which in 3 days we could have a potential shutdown over. $60 billion is what we spend that costs us taxpayers for hiring limited English proficiency teachers for these students that are in the country illegally. So that $60 billion, that is a nationwide impact, and that's just one out of many. I have records of veterans that have been kicked out of housing facilities to make room, the healthcare costs of the 700,000 illegals that will receive free healthcare in California. I mean, the list can go on and on and on and on of the freebies. And in fact, if you are on social media and you check out any one of the Facebook pages that is Cruzando la Frontera, you can find where they are actually giving a blueprint of how much you get when you are finally processed. And I don't like the term paroled into the United States. I know that's a Biden thing now. It's catch and release, you know, because no one shows up for their hearing in 7 years. They actually are receiving benefits at the taxpayer's dime. So I just think it's important that we dispute that. And of course, in New York, we've seen where the NYPD took $1 billion cut as a result of the illegal immigration. And as the wife of a first responder, we should be actually reinforcing our first responders with additional resources rather than cutting them. But I want to direct and take on a completely different topic that we haven't talked about yet today, which is agriculture. And of course, we have seen how there have been countless shipments of produce that have been caught at the legal ports of entry. I have actually been in the back of a semi-truck that was filled with tomatoes bound for my home state of Florida, and it was found to have marijuana and methamphetamine in the truck. That is a 10% issue, right? So that is 10% of the trucks that are carrying illegal narcotics are actually apprehended, caught. So that's a problem. But when you look at the macro of it, one thing that we need to consider is the cost to domestic production of our agricultural products as a result of cartel-subsidized activities. When you think about avocados, lemons, limes, basically the entire agricultural sector in Mexico is subsidized by the cartels. The impact that can have on our domestic production, it's one, an unfair competitive advantage. I would like everybody on this panel to just give some quick commentary because I now am down to the wire on this, but this has a massive, massive national security implication because food security is national security, and disastrous trade policies along with this now cartel subsidized pressure that we are facing, particularly in states like mine in Florida, they have real world implications. So I'll start going down the line if you can just touch on that very briefly.
Well, the simplest fact is that low-skill immigrants get a whole lot more in benefits than they pay in taxes, and high-skilled immigrants pay more in taxes than they get in benefits. They're no different than general population, but the reality is that as illegals come in, 40 to 50% of them don't have a high school degree. And over the course of a lifetime, they are going to absorb huge amounts of benefits, and they're not going to pay very much in taxes. We can do that for U.S.-born people. We cannot do that for 10 million illegals coming across the
And
border.
if I could get
That's
each
what
of the
we got.
witnesses to shorten their answer very quickly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, yeah.
Mexican cartels subsidize the agriculture out of Mexico.
And it's a problem for our domestic production,
All
yes.
right. Next.
Well,
I could just quickly comment on the economic impact in New York, which is $10.6 billion that we're about to spend on the migrant crisis. And we're actually spending $1.7 million every month on keeping Floyd Bennett open. So just to respond to those things.
All right.
Increasing H-2A visas is a great way to improve the competitive stature of American agriculture, which would expand immigration and reduce border chaos. So you get a 3-for-1.
Except for
All right,
H2A
and
is
the
seasonal and we have
gentle-
year-round in
gentle
Florida.
lady-
so
You
H2A
can
doesn't
reform
work.
it too.
Gentlelady yields back.
I-
Year-round.
All right.
I reluctantly yield.
I understand.